What will be the legacy of Pete DeBoer in Dallas? And where does he rank among the best head coaches in Dallas Stars history? All that and more next.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Let's reflect on Pete DeBoer's time with the Dallas Stars. What will his legacy be? One of the most impressive three-season stretches in Dallas Stars history. Where does he rank among the Ken Hitchcocks of the world, the Dave Tippett's, who had a lot of success in Dallas as well? I'll share some numbers with you, some really fascinating stuff. All the regular season success, but the Western Conference failures as well. We'll touch on those and where some things went wrong and try to dig into what will his legacy be here in Dallas, because it is rather interesting. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So I did some research and I dove into the numbers behind Pete DeBoer's 3 seasons in Dallas. So I'm going to share some of those with you, and then I'm going to kind of compare him against some of the other better head coaches in Dallas Stars history. But in the 3 seasons with head coach Pete DeBoer, 246 games behind the bench, 149 wins, 68 losses, and 29 overtime/shootout losses in his 3 years, 29 playoff wins and 27 losses, 6 series wins. He had a .665 points percentage in Dallas, which was the highest of his career and is actually the highest of all Dallas Stars head coaches in their history, .665. And of course, some other head coaches have much larger sample sizes of games in seasons, but he won a lot, and we know that here over the last 3 years. He also has had a great roster, but he has won a lot in the regular season, and he's won a lot in the postseason as well, just not when it gets down to the nitty-gritty and you have to try to get to the Stanley Cup final. But he's had success in both the regular season and playoffs. But of course, he leaves much to be desired when you've fallen straight 3 consecutive years. Won a Central Division title in 23-24. He finished second in the Central Division twice. They also won the Western Conference in the regular season in 23-24 as well. Well, if you stack that up against some other head coaches in their first 3 seasons in Dallas. So let's go to Ken Hitchcock. Of course, he brought the Stanley Cup to Dallas in 1999. In his first 3 full seasons, I didn't elect to choose the year prior where he came in and coached 43 games. So his first 3 full seasons in Dallas. Get a load of this: 148 wins, 67 losses, and 31 ties, since the shootout thing was not in effect yet. So 1 less win than Pete DeBoer in his first 3 full seasons, and 1 less loss, and of course a couple of more ties, whatever you want to call them. So interesting that we used to just have ties back in the day. Wasn't alive very long during those days. He had 29 playoff wins, so it's equal to Pete DeBoer. He had 18 losses, a .664 points percentage in his first 3 years in Dallas, which is very strong, but just a point under where Pete DeBoer was. And he finished first in all 3 seasons in the Central Division, or the Pacific Division at that time. And of course, he won the Stanley Cup in 99. So you just compare the 3 resumes, or the resume of Hitchcock and DeBoer in their first 3 full seasons in Dallas. It's almost identical, but there's a trophy on the end of Ken Hitchcock, and there's nothing to show for what Pete DeBoer did in his time in Dallas. And it just goes to show you how quickly things can really, really sour. And of course, I think many Stars fans probably believe. If it wasn't for the comments on Jake Ottinger and some of the other things, I think Pete DeBoer would probably still be the head coach of the Dallas Stars. I really don't see any reason other than that the Stars would want to move off of him, although maybe 3 consecutive losses in the Western Conference Final will warrant something like that. I know many Stars fans were begging for that decision to be made, but I think, and this is just my personal opinion, if the Otter comments don't get made, he's still the head coach of the Dallas Stars, and he's been very, very successful. Let's go to Lindy Ruff. This isn't his first 3 seasons. He was the coach for 4 years, so I did the entire 4 years. He had 165 wins, so just 16 more than what DeBoer had in 3 years, 122 losses, 41 overtime/shootout losses. He had 9 playoff wins and 10 losses. He had the 1 series win against the Minnesota Wild in that year where the Stars went bonkers but couldn't stop anybody from scoring on them on the decline of Kari Lettinen and some others. But Lindy Ruff for 4 years had some success. Let's look at Dave Tippett. Out of all the coaches in Dallas Stars history, Dave Tippett compiled 607 points in his 6 seasons with Dallas, which actually ranks second among head coaches. Dave Tippett in his first 3 years, 140 wins, 66 losses, 28 ties. And the 6 overtime losses since he kind of overlapped. 8 playoff wins, 14 losses. He had a series win in there as well in his first 3 full seasons in Dallas. So DeBoer statistically was the best head coach in his first 3 full seasons with the Dallas Stars. If you look really just at the modern era, right? Statistically. Of course, Hitchcock is right there. And you're going to take the Stanley Cup over just all the regular season success Pete DeBoer had. But if you just take the numbers for what they are, Pete DeBoer had the most success in his first 3 full seasons. And it was really similar to what Ken Hitchcock did. But Ken Hitchcock got the deal done, and he was able to win a Stanley Cup. And that's how, unfortunately, whether it's fair or not, that's how your legacy gets remembered in a lot of places. Look at Pete DeBoer in Vegas. Gets fired the very next year. The Vegas Golden Knights win the Stanley Cup. And DeBoer had a lot of success there in Vegas. But once again, he fell short of his ultimate goal. And we're going to get into some of that a bit later on. But I find it fascinating to look at really how much success he had and where he ranks just some other Dallas Stars head coaches. So Pete DeBoer in his 3 seasons compiled 327 points with the Dallas Stars. And that ranks 6th among the 25 head coaches in Dallas Stars history. And of course, context is everything. Some guys had better rosters than ever, but to rank 6th in Dallas Stars history after 246 games, he's the only coach. The coaches above him have everyone has almost nearly over 150 games over him, besides Lindy Ruff, who had 328. And if DeBoer was here for another year, he would end up smashing Lindy Ruff with another season. Rick Bowness is behind him, Jack Gordon, and some others. Of course, Jim Montgomery had 2 seasons, 114 games. But DeBoer has put himself in there with the likes of even Bob Gainey, who had 390 points combined from 91 to 96 during his 6 seasons. Like, it's really, really impressive stuff when you look at the overall wins and losses, and of course the points percentage. DeBoer had the highest points percentage in Dallas Stars coaching history, above Dave Tippett. Of course, Tippett had 6 seasons. Hitchcock had 8, and you have to also include Hitchcock when he came back to Dallas for a rerun. But I find it really remarkable what he did, just because we haven't really actually looked at his resume of a whole in Dallas. But now that we've had a couple of weeks to nibble on his firing, it's just kind of cool to reflect on what he did. And yes, it was impressive, but at the end of the day, he did not get the job done, and he fell short 3 consecutive years. And I think Pete DeBoer, for the most part, was extremely loved in Dallas. I remember the opening night at the AAC this past season, the roar that Pete DeBoer got when they announced his name over the speakers at the AAC, just the roar. I don't know if we've ever heard that for a head coach in Dallas, just because of what he's been able to do the last few seasons. But you're always going to be graded on the Stanley Cup scale. And it's not like DeBoer was taking over the Stars like when Jim Montgomery came in and, they finally had some successful drafts and they were starting to improve and hopefully get into that Stanley Cup contender conversation. No, he's taken over a roster that was supposed to win. And he was hoping to be the X factor to get them over the hump to some degree. And he fell short. But just looking at where he compares with Hitchcock and some others, just really, really fascinating stuff. All the success he did have in Dallas. Let's continue some of that conversation and look at some other numbers of where he ranks within the Dallas Stars coaching history conversation. We'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it so easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Also, $200 in bonus bets that can add to the excitement if your first $5 bet wins. NBA Finals has been a lot of fun so far. Of course, the Thunder won the other night. They're up 3-2, trying to close it out. And it's not just the NBA Finals. We have the Stanley Cup Final that could potentially end tonight when I'm recording this. So much great stuff, so much good action to get on with FanDuel. So there's no better time. Download the app. It takes 30 seconds. It's free. It's available on the App Store or Google Play Store. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So let's provide some more context to Pete DeBoer's success in the regular season. I went through some of the comparisons with other head coaches in Dallas Stars history. Let's just look at his overall success in context with the NHL. And I went back to this a bit earlier in the offseason as well, because it's rather fascinating to see some of the best regular season teams over the last 3 seasons since 2022 when Pete DeBoer took over for Dallas. So 327 points the Stars accumulated in his 149 wins. That was the most amount of points in the NHL during that span. 149 wins, ranked 4th among teams. Colorado is better, Carolina was better, and Winnipeg was better. But you look at the top 10 teams in wins over the last 3 seasons. You got Colorado in there. Of course, they won a cup. Carolina, Winnipeg, nada. Toronto, Edmonton, nada. Vegas, of course, a few years ago. Boston, nada. New York, nada. And then you have the Panthers, who may just win their second in back-to-back seasons. But really strong stuff there. 4th in total amount of wins and 1st in total amount of points during that span. You look at points percentage. Dallas Stars first at .665. You go to goals for even. The Stars offense was among the best during that span under Pete DeBoer. 850 goals for. That actually ranks 3rd. Only Tampa and Edmonton were better. Let's take a look at goals against. Maybe the Stars were just an amazing offensive team, but they weren't particularly great in keeping it out of their own net. Wrong. 669 goals allowed. That is actually top 10. It is 7th in the NHL during that span. They have Arizona and Utah in here as well. If you combine them, they'd be well over. So you can really put it about top 5 for Dallas. They were top 5 in goals against. So really strong stuff there. Goals for per game. Not a huge surprise, but they ranked 3rd as well. 3.46 goals per game during that span. Goals against even. Once again, Stars are top 5, 2.72 goals against. So the Stars had this great combination of offense and defense, which led them to a lot of regular season success. And it led them to a lot of success in the postseason as well. I know they didn't win the Stanley Cup, but 29 playoff wins, 6 series wins is nothing to scoff at. But in the context of what you're chasing, it is. The power play even. It's actually pretty crazy. The Stars power play 7th over that span, 23%. And it was atrocious to start this past season. But for the most part, it's been relatively healthy and remained in the top 10 under Pete DeBoer's time behind the bench. The PK, I mean, 82%. One of the best PKs in the entire NHL this past season for a large chunk of the year. Well, it was one of the best PKs during that stretch at 82%. And this isn't all Pete DeBoer. You have to give some credit to Steve Spott and Alain Nasreddine as well. It's not all Pete DeBoer, but like we have to give credit to Pete DeBoer too for some of the successes of his team and some of his failures. Whether or not maybe he's directly impacting it, because we got to keep it right on both sides. So yeah, I mean, you look at all that, like it's really great stuff. I mean, they're just top 10, top 5 in every major category you would look at for a team. Even face-off percentage, they were first. Not that always correlates with winning, but they were pretty good in the dots. That, of course, is more reflective on the Dallas Stars center iceman over the last few seasons. But still, they played with the puck more often than not. And at the end of the day, Stars still couldn't find a way to get it done. Let's look at just shots on goal. That's pretty interesting. Well, the Stars averaged just over 30 shots per game during that span of the 3 seasons under DeBoer. Shots against the Dallas Stars were about middle of the pack, 29.2, and they were heavily outshot in many of their games, especially their past season. And even in a year, which is really crazy to think about, where this past season, most recent, was the most roller coaster tops and turby year for DeBoer, and it could have got out of hand really, really quickly when you look at the amount of injuries they were going through and just the overall nature of what was happening. The players getting hit in the face every 2 periods, it felt like, but he still won 50 games, 50 wins, two straight 50-win seasons. Of course, in 23-24, it was the second best season in franchise history. They were a team that was, pretty decent on the road. They were pretty decent they're pretty decent at home. Let's go to some of those home and road splits too. I think that would be interesting to take a look at during his time. At home, the Stars were 6th. And for whatever reason, the slow starts. We talk about that with Gavin Spittle in tomorrow's episode, just about all the slow starts Dallas has gotten to, but, still 168 points at home for a total of, the Stars 76 wins at home during Pete DeBoer's tenure. That is 9th in the NHL. Let's go to the road. They were one of the best road teams a year prior. 73 wins. It's the most amount of road wins in the NHL. During that span under Pete DeBoer's tenure, and they have the most points too at 159. So really, really strong on the road, and they were above average away. But for whatever reason, of course, we all know, couldn't win a game 1 to save their lives. Although, ironically enough, the last 2 series, the Stars won game 1. They figured that out, but couldn't figure out how to close the deal. So that's just some more context to what Pete DeBoer did in Dallas. He's one of the best, let's just say it, one of the best coaches in the NHL. But again, when we look at some of the stuff, a lot of those teams, they don't even have Stanley Cups. And Pete DeBoer doesn't either. Now let's dive in a bit more into the Western Conference failures. I went through some numbers too, just because it's fascinating to look at. And maybe you'll be surprised by a few of these. Maybe you're not. So let's look at each of the 3 Western Conference failures by the Dallas Stars, and we'll do that in just a moment. And of course, not all of these failures are on Pete DeBoer. I think there's a lot of other factors. You can't just look and blame it on one person. But he is the head coach of the Dallas Stars, and it is interesting to look at the three Western Conference final experiences. And as I said, the Stars came into each of them comfortably within the top five in goals for and goals against during the regular season. Very, very comfortable within the top 10. Even some years they were within the top five in both. And for the most part, their power play penalty kill was within the top 10. So against Vegas in 2023, of course, the Stars lost the first two games. They lost the first three games of that series, but they lost the first two in overtime. That game, too, still haunts me, Stars fans, when Dallas had the 2-1 lead and Ryan Suter went behind the net and threw a blind backhand pass behind the net. It was picked off and it was centered and they scored. I have nightmares thinking about that game because that whole series could have changed if Suter just makes a strong play there and not turn it over. And instead of going back to home down 2-1 or down 2-0, you're tied at 1. And who knows what happens after that. But anyways, Stars go down 3-0 in that series, lost the first two games on the road. I mentioned how the Stars were comfortably within the top 5 in goals for and goals against, are comfortably within the top 10. In that series against Vegas, 2 goals per game, which is their calling card, right? Their offense, for the most part, the calling card of Pete DeBoer. Goals against, 3.5 goals against in that 6-game series against Vegas. The power play went 3 for 11. The penalty kill went 11 for 14. So special teams was a bit of a wash. They scored 3. Vegas scored 3. And Dallas was shut out 2 times in that series. Game 3, 4-0 at home, and they were shut out 6-0 in the clincher, and it wasn't particularly competitive. It was just like we saw in Game 5, where it was like 3-0 in the first 10 minutes, and the game was over. The Stars, interesting enough, they actually outshot Vegas 197-174 in that series. They were out hit in 3 of the 6 games, so it was about even there. But I just looked at the shot numbers because it's not like Dallas in either of these series was completely outshot or they were just getting dominated, although this most recent series was a bit different. But even then, the shot on goal totals weren't like this huge, large gap. It was minuscule, but it's about the shot quality in a lot of ways. A lot of just empty shot numbers when you look at how the Stars offense was trying to facilitate or trying to just generate goals. 2024 against Edmonton. Of course, Stars lost that one in 6 games. Again, really strong team offensively and defensively. 2.33 goals per game, so improved a little bit from the year prior. 2.83 goals against. Not atrocious, but their power play went 0 for 14. Their PK went 7 for 11, and we've documented that a ton. That was really the difference in the series, was the special teams conversation. They were outshot in the series 162 to 156. They were out hitting 3 of the 6 games. And, I bring up the out hitting just because we talk about the physicality and nature of the Stars team. It really doesn't correlate. Like if the Stars have more hits, it didn't always correlate to wins. It's not always a great number to look at, but just for a frame of reference of how the Stars were playing. Okay, now just the most recent series. 2.2 goals against or per game for the Stars offensively. 3.80 goals per game allowed. Not very good. 5 for 14 on the power play, which is pretty. You look at that number on a tech, like it's pretty good, but 3 of your 4 came in game 1. And you won that game. So only 1 power play goal, the rest of the 4, but you gave up 6. You went 10 for 16 on the penalty kill. They were outshot by Edmonton 133 to 132. So it wasn't much of a difference there. They were out hit in all 5 games of that series, but they were trailing in all 5 games. I've mentioned that a few times. It allowed Edmonton to get out and play on their toes. But I try to bring up all those numbers just to kind of get to the point. Like, this is where the failure was. The Stars and Pete DeBoer were just unable to adapt and find other ways to generate offense that was available to them for most of the regular season, even the first 2 rounds, they weren't able to adapt when it came to the Western Conference Final because the teams are better, number one, and there's a lot less time and space to make plays, and it just becomes harder to score goals against your opponent. And you can look at all 3 of these series. It's not like they ran into a generational goaltender. What was it, Aiden Hill in 2023, who was a really good, I mean, he went on a great run. I believe it was Aiden Hill. It could have been Logan Thompson, but I believe it was Logan Hill during that one, or sorry, Aiden Hill. And it was, he played in all 6 games. And then of course you have Skinner the past 2. Like, these aren't guys you're thinking like, okay, you went up against a Carey Price, you went up against a prime Marc-Andre Fleury, and you just ran into a guy that was hot. Funny enough, it seemed like they beat better goaltenders and better teams earlier in these playoff runs. But when it came down to it, and this is sort of why I think it was a really good decision, outside of the Otter comments that the Stars may have made these moves, and I'm starting to turn around on this. When it got harder to score, when Dallas needed to be tougher, needed to be more physical, and find ways to generate offense that doesn't come easy to them, they were unable to do it 3 years in a row. And their shot quality just got more poor. And as I said, you look at some of the shot numbers, yeah, like they look good on paper, but really empty. Really empty. And we saw that a lot against Edmonton the past couple of years. Just shots from outside the tops of the circles, not really testing Stuart Skinner enough, not testing Aiden Hill enough, not getting him to move more and flail and get him flopping around like we've seen other teams be able to do in game plan against. The Stars can fail to do that because they were just unable to adapt to a style of game or just change the way they go about trying to find offense and scoring goals, because it comes much harder the deeper you get into the playoffs. We all know that. It gets much harder because you're playing better opponents. Usually you're playing better goalies, but in this case, it's not like, I mean, they played goalies that got hot. Let's be fair to them. They played goalies that were phenomenal, but did the Stars really test Hill in 2023? Did they really test Skinner enough in 24-25? I don't know, but it was the same thing. And the power play was okay in a couple of these series, but really at 5-on-5, just Dallas wasn't able to adapt and find ways to score goals outside of the norm, outside of the comfort zone, whether that was on the power play and whether that was, off the rush where things came easy to them. They just couldn't find a way to bear down and bury some of their chances. And that's sort of the theme in each of these 3 failures by Pete DeBoer and the Stars. And that's a reflection of Pete DeBoer, whether it's fair or not. He is responsible for the offense because we saw how successful it had been in the regular season and for large chunks of most of each postseason run. But when it came down to it, when you're playing the best of the best, the creme de la creme, Stars were unable to get it done. And it's adjustments to how the Stars play. And DeBoer wasn't able to make the necessary ones and get the best out of this club. And yes, there's other context to some things with injuries and other things of that nature. We get it. There's external factors. But it just feels like the Stars should have gotten to at least one final. Whether they win it or not, like at that point, it can be, there's some luck involved and some other things, but they should have gotten to one. And they weren't particularly close in either of these 3. I mean, really particularly close. 2024, a bit different, but 5 games, 2025, they were down 3-0 in 23. They did well to fight back to make it to a game 6. And they had a 2-1 advantage in 2024 over Edmonton. They lost 4 straight. So they were a bit close, but as that series wore along, just not really at the same time. So changing culture, right? How can the Stars change the culture, change the style to become a team that is built the right way to win the Stanley Cup. And tomorrow's episode, part 1 of my conversation with Gavin Spittle of Spits and Suds, addresses a lot of that. Gavin has wonderful insight, and it was great to catch up with him. So enjoy part 1 and part 2 coming on Thursday and Friday. Tomorrow, it's a lot of Pete DeBoer. I think the whole episode's actually Pete DeBoer. I think we went a little bit longer than I expected, but it's some good stuff. And it's not just Pete DeBoer, too. It's the coaching search at large. Gavin shared some wonderful insight on Neil Graham and some other potential candidates the Stars could look at. And then part 2, more of an off-season conversation, just Jason Robertson, of course, the UFAs, some potential free agents and all that good stuff to take you into the weekend. But thank you, as always, for the love and support. I appreciate all of you wonderful Locked On Stars listeners. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, drop your opinion about Pete DeBoer in the comments below. Maybe what you feel like his legacy was here with the Dallas Stars. And I just going back and doing the research and looking, it's like, gosh, I mean, he wins a cup. You're putting him up there in the best ever. And even without one, he's one of the better coaches in Dallas Stars history. But he won't be viewed as that at the end of the day without Lord Stanley. And that's it's unfortunate. Had a good roster to do it and just fell short. But have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the conversation with Gavin Spittle tomorrow. Great crossover with Spits and Suds. And I'll see you on Monday when I get back. And so long, Stars fans.